Hey, Jules Bliss Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So we've been doing Self-Care September, where for 30 days I am giving you a hot tip on how to care for yourself. They're all completely free, worthy of sharing, and just doing your best. Doesn't matter if it's September, doesn't matter what day it is, just implement these for yourself. But for those who are following, today is day 5, and the intention for today was to plan a fun or relaxing, because sometimes fun is not relaxing, right? It's hyper and full of energy, whereas relaxing is like chill. Okay, so a fun or relaxing activity this weekend, and make time to actually do it. Okay, well, luckily today's only Saturday and it is a 3-day weekend. There is still hope for me, but right now I had one intention. We were going to go somewhere tomorrow night, but it was canceled. So I will have to think of something else. One unexpected thing was last night at literally midnight, and I don't know what woke us up. I think it was dog barking or something. But at midnight, my husband and I were both suddenly awake, and he just got into singing oldies but goodies. And all of a sudden we were kind of playing off of each other. And, if he sang something about dogs, I found another one, who let the dogs out or whatever. It was very funny. And then we got into just like, TV genres and country. And I'm not even kidding you. Before we knew it, it was 2:30 in the morning. It was just, now that was unexpected. Was it planned? No. But was it fun? Absolutely. Just a really going with it in the moment. But anyway, I will continue to seek something with intention. But that was a lot of fun, even though it wasn't planned. Okay, so for day 6, again, I'm always giving you a day ahead so you can be successful. You need to just focus on the basics. Eat well, exercise, and go to bed on time. That's it. Focus on the basics, eat well, exercise, and go to bed on time. And yet I find myself already struggling with that. The go to bed on time part. What would that look like? It's going to be Sunday. No school Monday. Party. All-nighter. Not really. I'm going to pray about that one too. Okay, so just because, like physician heal thyself, just because I'm sharing these doesn't mean that I can actually live by them. I'm going to do my best. All right, so one more time, if you're just joining today, today's intention was plan a fun or relaxing activity this weekend and make time to do it. And for tomorrow, always going a day ahead, focus on the basics. Eat well, I'm all in. Exercise, I'm good to go. Go to bed on time. By God's grace. Okay, if you're sticking around, people, I have a fantastic article on the difference between compulsively overeating and being a food addict. And, these things are right up my alley, if you will, because I often proclaim myself a compulsive overeater. And what I mean by that is that when certain foods are super tempting to me or provoke me, I eat them compulsively. Like I consume gigantic quantities in a very brief period of time. There's some people whom I refer to as normies, or even my husband, who can have treats and actually just have a few and put the rest away. Hooey whatty? Like what? Yeah, I have no quitting sense on any of that. So I compulsively consume a tremendous amount. I remember as a child, my father would say, "Did you guys even breathe? Or did you just inhale the whole dang thing?" It's kind of like that when I'm provoked by certain things. The other part is actually being a food addict. And what I'm finding, again, as I suggested, much like alcohol, if I am not eating those trigger foods, I'm not responding in a way that's of an addict, right? What I will say, though, is that I definitely, much like an addict, obsess about food. Like even as I'm conversing with somebody, in the middle of teaching, in the middle of having a conversation with my husband, I am running a reel in my head about what the next meal is, where the food's going to come from. Can I eat this? Can I eat that? It's like a running reel while I'm trying to focus on whatever it is I'm doing in the moment. To me, that is a very addictive behavior. So let's see what this article says. And of course, as always, I will include it in the description of the video because people, that's how I roll. Okay, so this is titled Compulsive Overeating versus Food Addiction, What is the Difference? And it's by Addiction Hope. And of course, like I said, I'll include it in the description. So it reads, if you have ever sat down for a meal and ate to the point that you are uncomfortably full, is that something you should be concerned about? What if you find it difficult to control yourself around food or find yourself reaching for food even when you are not hungry? Are these behaviors indicative of compulsive overeating or food addiction? When it comes to overeating, compulsive overeating, or even a food addiction, there is a plethora of misinformation and confusion around these issues. Any abnormal food behaviors should never be ignored, especially if they are negatively influencing your quality of life or preventing you from your daily activities. What exactly is compulsive overeating, and how does this differ from food addiction, and what can you do if you think you might be struggling? On the surface, these conditions may appear to be similar, though there are subtle differences of which to be aware. This article will help you clear up this information. Yeah, for me, I'm like, has this ever gotten in the way of my daily life? You ain't whistling Dixie, girlfriend. Yes, it absolutely has. Oh my gosh. As I suggested, being in a movie theater for 14 hours in a single day, hiding in the dark, lying, hiding food. You know, it wasn't even long ago, honestly, that I was looking for stuff in my car and I found some half-eaten nonsense underneath the chair, which means I must have been hiding it from my husband when I got home. You know, like some of these behaviors continue to haunt me. Are they far less? Absolutely. But is the tendency still there? No doubt, no doubt. Okay, so the subheading is Understanding Compulsive Overeating. Compulsive overeating can be defined by certain behaviors and criteria that may demonstrate a lack of control around food. Some of the most common and defining behaviors of compulsive overeating may include, but are not limited to, the following. Number 1, eating uncontrollably, even when not physically hungry. Been there. Feeling shame, disgust, or guilt over eating. Hello. Consuming food much more rapidly than normal. Yeah, like honestly, even with healthy food, okay, because by all accounts, I am a raw vegan. I am well on my way to a better way of life. I will still stand in the kitchen, putting even healthy things in my mouth in a very compulsive way. Trying to eat some of it because I feel so ashamed by the quantity so that I appear to look a little more normal with what I actually have. Like, and even though it's healthy food, it's compulsive approaches, okay, to food. That's where I am. So eating large quantities of food in a short period of time, so yes. Eating in secrecy or alone due to feeling embarrassed, yes. Chronic dieter or history of dieting, hello. Yes, 3rd grade on, okay, that I was officially dieting. Hiding or hoarding food. Okay, so this is why. So when people say, well, you're a compulsive overeater because you proclaim yourself to be and you're labeling yourself that. Okay, if those are the characteristics of a compulsive overeater, I have done and do them all right? Straight up. Okay, many individuals who struggle with compulsive overeating often turn to food during moments of intense emotional experiences or in overwhelming situations. For example, after a stressful day at work, a woman may go home and binge on a large quantity of food, often as a means of solace or comfort. Or a man who is struggling through a painful divorce might look to food as a way of distraction or a means of filling emptiness. In many situations, unresolved trauma, painful experiences, or intense emotions may be at the root of compulsive overeating. Typically, individuals who are dealing with compulsive overeating recognize that their behaviors are abnormal and struggle to break the cycle of their eating habits. In addition, the shame that is often experienced with compulsive overeating causes those who are struggling to isolate in shame. keeping their pain and fears to themselves. I mean, obviously, I do Jules Plus Vegan videos. I've told you I'm a member of Overeaters Anonymous. I'm not necessarily hiding anymore, but I still, again, have that tendency to approach food and food-related stress in a very compulsive manner. Many people with compulsive overeating tendencies may be overweight or obese, which can further contribute to the indignity that is commonly felt. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 2.8% of the adult population, and I'm not sure what year this article is, and that seems very little to me, but 2.8% of the adult population in the United States experience compulsive overeating, with the average age of onset occurring at about 25 years old. So interesting. Okay, well, they're specifically referencing the adult population, so fair enough. But age 25, I wonder if that's self-proclaimed or if they didn't recognize it as a problem before when they were just hanging with college buddies and doing a, weekend warrior of junk food, like maybe by 25, they're at a place where they thought they'd outgrow those behaviors, and in not doing so, they're proclaiming this, because that seems very low to me and a little old. Okay, here's the basics of food addiction. So that was compulsive overeating. Now here are the basics of food addiction. Food addiction, by contrast, because remember it said there's a huge misunderstanding in the two. Food addiction, by contrast, is parallel to what is experienced with a drug addiction or substance abuse. A person dealing with food addiction experiences a chemical change in the body from certain foods, like, sugar, right? For some people. Other people aren't as affected. I would say even salt for some people, needing that salty substance. But let's see. And food addiction is a hyperlink, so there's way more information if you want it. A person dealing with food addiction experiences a chemical change in the body from eating certain foods, particularly foods that are higher in sugars, salts, and fat. And of course, some would argue oil, which is just fried fat, right? The chemical change is similar to what a drug addict might experience when abusing drugs or getting high. Foods that are palatable can in fact create a euphoric experience for people who may be addicted to food, and these foods can be craved and eaten even when not necessarily hungry. And a portion of this article actually talks about a cross addiction, so hang tight for that, because that's got to be my story. According to the Food Addiction Institute, a food addiction is a cluster of chemical dependencies on specific foods or food in general. A person addicted to food may suffer damaging consequences as a result of their behaviors, but will still find it difficult to stop from engaging in these eating patterns. I so get that. Because again, I'd go to dangerous places to get food. Like seriously. So people wouldn't see me. I'd go into neighborhoods that were not mine. I had no business being there. Just so that I could go to a different liquor store. They call them liquor stores, but you know what I mean, like 7-Eleven or any of the things that would have junk food that I could get without going too often, certainly pretending all the time that we were having a party or that all this isn't for me, when I'd fill up the entire conveyor belt at the grocery store, right? And yet, who was I fooling? People saw that I was wearing the weight, which was an obvious consequence of that much food. Okay, so a person addicted to food may suffer damaging consequences as a result of their behaviors, but will still find it difficult to stop from engaging in these eating patterns. While scientific research on food addiction is somewhat limited, it has been established that various components may contribute to the development of a food addiction, including genetics, biochemical makeup, and hormonal influences. There's no doubt that the heavier you get, the more your hormones are off, right? They're out of sync. And so it's kind of, I can't think, catch-22, I guess is what I want to say. It's like a catch-22. I mean, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And for me, like with alcohol, I would joke that I'm Scotch-Irish, heavy on the Scotch, right? Because we had drinkers for generations, and from 10 years old, from that first sip, my body recognized it and said, oh good, we're home, right? And I totally understand that. So genetics, biochemical makeup, and hormonal influences I'm sorry for my hormonal situation as a result of obesity, because it has greatly affected the direction my life could have gone in. I'm not regretting it. I'm just saying I can see now that had I not acted out in certain ways, my process would have been much different. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so here's understanding overlapping behaviors, and that's what I meant. So it says, in many cases, compulsive overeating and food addictive behaviors may overlap. For example, a person who may have biological risk factors for food addiction, such as the genetic predisposition or neurochemical imbalance, could have increased susceptibility developing compulsive eating behaviors. Right, so it's kind of like the symptom, right? The symptom is that everybody sees you're a compulsive overeater, but the cause is that you actually have these biochemical makeup or genetics or hormonal factors that are even getting you to respond in the way that you are. So food consumption can become a way to fill an emotional void that is also perpetuated by biological influences related to food addiction. This can create a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. For this reason, comprehensive care and treatment are absolutely crucial to address the many complex issues that are involved in both compulsive eating and food addiction behaviors. And I think, today they definitely can give you a pill, to help you control yourself in some way. For me, a pill was never the answer. I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'll just stay in my fat suit forever if I have to. I am not going to go in that direction. Certainly more detrimental. Like, for me, obesity is just death by a very slow, painful suicide. Okay, it takes way longer than many other forms of suicide, but there's no doubt that it is causing death in that direction. But some things are far more immediate, like bulimia, with the trachea and the holes from all the acid, and like the whole thing that is much more immediate and needs immediate attention. Oh my goodness. And certainly anorexia, where the person literally just will not stay on the planet without additional help. So I think if you're in a position where you know that your life is greatly compromised because of your pattern of eating, you do need psychological help. You do need to attempt to get to the root of whatever it is. I chose Overeaters Anonymous and the 12-step program, and I get my support from there. I chose for my way of eating just in the last year and a half or 2 years to go with vegan for one, far less chemical, far less triggers, and raw vegan, fruit, vegetables, healthy fats, for the win, because that does not trigger me as much. So am I still triggered? Absolutely. Do I act on it occasionally? Yes, but nothing like, literally I can say 50 years of responding to life. Because I told you guys, I'm not kidding when I say at 2.5 and 3, I remember fretting over not getting enough or a bigger piece of cake. I'm stealing 6 packs of ice cream from my funny little body in a square box under my shirt and running for my life when the guy is trying to call the police. I mean, I get it. And I have a long memory, and I so get it. So it says having an individual treatment plan that considers all factors involved, including a biological, emotional, mental, and psychological, can help encouraging healing through whole person care. And if you have the insurance for that, do it. For me, it was mental. Like, I literally was in a hospital for an entire month. I was in a hospital like 3 different times for a week at a time. And today I more blame the 10 medications they had me on than what my actual problems were. But I don't regret that, and I was grateful to have the insurance at the time. So it says seeking out appropriate help and treatment. Whether you suspect that you might be dealing with food addiction, have the tendency to compulsively overeat, or have overlapping behaviors, it's important not to ignore these signs and symptoms. The good news is that you do not have to have everything figured out in order to seek help. Seeking out a specialist or addiction or eating disorder specialist, and they exist and they're fantastic, really. Like a physician or a counselor, to get to the root of the problem and determine what treatment approaches might be most helpful for your recovery. Many people are dealing with food addiction and or compulsive overeating, and they feel trapped in their own behaviors, often experiencing a sense of hopelessness. Be encouraged to know that there is hope for the future that is not plagued by abnormal eating issues. You can begin your journey in freedom today simply by reaching out for help. And of course, this article comes from Timberland Knolls Residential Treatment Center, but there are a ton. And there's fantastic ones in Arizona. Like, it's really well known for that. Again, the 12-step program, which is completely free, Overeaters Anonymous, they absolutely have sponsors, and the sponsors are just recovered people in the program giving service because they know service is slimming. It actually keeps them from acting on their disorders. So that's certainly one for free. But yeah, I don't know where you are with that. So for me, I just wanted to clarify a little more why, like, technically and by definition, I call myself a compulsive overeater. It is the way I tend to respond to food. It's why I call myself a food addict, because I obsess and can't even get between sentences without my brain going through a chronic reel regarding food. Is it less at times? Sure. Is it more at times? Absolutely. Have I learned to get off all medication? Praise God, I am. And to mostly be balanced? Absolutely. And I rejoice to no end. But it's a process. All right, my friends, as always, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may be of support to you, and if you understand these, and if they apply to you, I'd love to know. And until we talk again, my friends, best of all, know that you're blessed.